Okay, let's start building. What we currently have is just a Next.js application that was created within Create Next app. And for now, we just have two routes, which is the home page and the about page. Like we have already seen a demo of what we'll be creating. We'll be trying to add a transition with Framer motion to these pages. So when we try to move from the home page to the about page, we get a nice transition and a nice design. Yeah. So first off, develop the code editor. I think we currently have it open. What we just have here is was created with the app. I think we just have the about page and we have the index page, which serves as the home page for us. Then next we have a component, which is the header, which is what we can see here. And next, I think we have a font, which just serves for, which is just a cost for this. I think this is just a regular font from Ink that is being imported from Google Fonts. So let's see what we could do. So first off, remember, right, we're using Framer motion. We need to install Framer motion. We could quickly go to the documentation. So we see, so Framer motion is just a JavaScript library for animation, mostly for React. And I think it's the most used React library for animation. So let's install. For this video, we'll be using yarn, but you could also use npm to install Framer motion. Yeah. Okay, so we have this. Okay, so we have you could just say yarn add Framer. While this is installing, I think we'll be back. Let's wait while this is installed. Okay, so Framer motion is installed, and let's spin up our server again. Yarn dev. Okay, so we have Framer motion installed. So let's get building. So the first thing we need to do after having Framer motion installed, we need to create a wrapper application, because as we all know, this is the Next.js application, and you need to be able to access each page while they change. And for us to do that, we need to create a template file that wraps around our application. And you could check it out on Next.js and see the templates. The template, it works like the layout. Like I said, is similar to the layout. It wraps each child layout or page, and it's basically create a new instance for each of your navigation. And that's what we'll be able to access when the page change. We show a different animation, or we show a different transition on the change of the page. So let's do that. In our roots, we'll create a template file, call it template.csx. Since we're using TypeScript, this will just be a regular component called template, and it takes in the children. So we need to type the particular children props. So this is just going to be area. And remember, this is the wrapper around our whole application. So it needs to export, or should I say, it needs to make use of the child or the children. So this could just be a React fragment. And yeah, I think this works. Then the next thing we need to do, we need to import now. I think it's time for us to make use of Framer motion. If you could go to Framer motion documentation and see what we have. So what we just want to do, we just want to work with, I think what we need here for this particular tutorial, we need just the animate presence, and I think, and just the motion.dev or .paragraph or whatever we need. Yeah, so we have a wrapper around our application, which is the first step. Yeah, so let's go ahead. Okay, so first off, we have to import animate presence from Framer motion, and also we need to import motion, which is the component we'll be using for the animation. Then next, we need to wrap this particular component around animate presence. Then we could also add a mode equal to weight, and let's just say it's more readable. So the next thing, let's work on just the animation motion div. Take our children props into this part. And now this is where the real works happen. So we'll say on initial load of this particular route, we just want to have a scale of 0. So when it starts, we have a scale. So let's see our components. So we have an error that says create context is not a function. Now remember every component you have, or every file created inside your app or your app directory, is a server component. Next.js doesn't know that we need this to be a client component. So we need to let Next.js know that this is a client component, and we should be able to do some client interaction on this particular page. Now we have this, as you can see. Now let's go to home, let's go to about. Now we can't really see anything on the page, because what we have here is on the initial scale of 0. So next, we could say animate. We want to animate X axis for 1. Then let's see what we have. Now let's see. Okay, so we have X. Let me pull up code editor again. So we have what we just have here is initial scale X is 0. Then on animate, scale X is 1. And that is what's giving us this particular animation that we can see. It's still looking kind of weird, but we are getting there. Okay, now if you also notice, when you go to the next page, we can't really see this header because why? On default, the font color is just white. And remember, this page is a white page, so you won't really see this header. So we will handle that later. Now let's continue our animation. So for the next step, what we could do, we could add a transition, a very smooth transition on this page. And Premium Motion gives us access to the animation property where we could define the duration, the delay, and where you could define the duration. For this now, we could say duration of 1. Then let's see what we have now. So on this page, let me refresh. Okay, this is looking almost good. Okay, so on change of the page, we have this and we have this. We have this. So we're almost there for getting the animation. So now what we need to do next is to add, we could add an ease animation. For this, we could just use the value like 0.43 0.13 to give us a very smooth transition to 3. 0.96. Now there's an error. It says this does not exist in type. Okay, that was the error. We weren't supposed to put it in the animate. It was supposed to go into the transition. Yeah, my bad. Okay, so let's take it inside this part. Okay. So now let's see this. See what we have currently. This is looking good. Now you might be wondering why does this look kind of weird? Because the text itself is moving with the page. The text itself is moving with the transition of the page, which is not supposed to be so. So to fix that, we need to add an animation on the particular text that, okay, I want you to do, basically saying that, oh, when the page loads, wait for some minutes or for some seconds before you appear on the page. So we could get a very, very clean animation. I think before we do that, let's quickly fix this header. In the header component here, it's just a regular React component where we have the header tag HTML and just set some values here and it's set to white. So now to fix this, what we could say is, we could say if I'm on the about page, which has the background of white, make this black. Then else, if I'm on this page, which is the base route, make this text white. For us to be able to do that, Next.js app router made it very, very possible for us to be able to achieve something like that with the use params. It says the use param is the client hook that lets you read the current URL path name. So we want to read the current URL path name. Then based on that value, we used to render the text. So let's do that. We import the use param from, okay. So we import use param from next navigation. Then we initialize a constant, which could just be path name equal to use params name. Yeah. So now we could say for this text of white, and in this line, in the last line here, we could just say, okay, in JavaScript. So if path name is equal to this, which is the base of our application, which is the home page, we want a text of white. Then else we want a text of just black. Black works. Yeah. Then format this, and now let's take a look and see what we have. We could close this. We don't need this anymore. Okay, so we are on the home page, which says home. So now let's go to the about page. Nice. And we finally have home and about. Now you notice how the color changed as we change the route. So that has been fixed. So now let's quickly fix this text, the text content on our pages. Okay, so to do that, let's go into this page. Let's start from the main page. We just have a text, we have a paragraph, and now let's try doing this. Now remember, this particular page now is a server component, and we won't be able to use inside this component because Premium Motion run on the server, it runs on your client. And I think we could just try it out and see. Okay, motion.main. Okay, first off, let's import motion from Premium Motion. Let's import motion from Premium Motion. I just want to show you guys the error. Premium Motion. So Premium Motion.main gives us access to most of the HTML tags we have. Now you should get an error here saying, yeah, an error that says create is not a function, so we can't use Framer motion in a server component. So now the way we could do this, one way we could do this is it's basically creating component outside the server component. We could create the directory of Framer, then it could just be an index.tsx. Yes, it could just be a tsx file. Then inside there, now remember, we have to make this a client component so we could use it. So now this is the client component, and we're going to import motion from Framer motion. Now what we need there, first off, right, is we could export a motion div as a component directly from here. It's basically equal to the motion dot, let's say, div. So we could do it for different values or different elements. We could say motion.main. This will be equal to motion.main. We could also export for paragraphs, because I think we have like some paragraphs. So we could call this paragraphs.paragraph. Okay, yeah, so we are good to go. So now this particular component can be used in our server components. This client component can be used there. So now let's go here. Instead of using motion directly, what we could do here, we could say motion, sorry, there's an error. We could do motion main. Yeah, now let's go back to our browser and see what we have. Okay, let's refresh. Now what does it say? It says, okay, there's an error. Okay, we don't have our closing tag properly set up here. Oh, that was what caused the error. So let's do this, refresh the page, and yeah, so now we have Framer motion working inside this particular server component. Now we are not yet done. Remember, we still need to add the transition and the styling for each of the texts. So this is a div. This is our main. So we could wrap it. This is our main. Then inside our main, we could also do something like, okay, so let's clean this up. Let's say motion div, which we already exported. Then everything you see here is going into this place. Then we could take our classes and take them out into this div. Then this main is just like the main wrapper around this application. Okay, now we also have to wrap this, make this a div. Remember, we have a motion paragraph. So let's see what we have. Let's refresh. We still have the same animation, and we are almost getting there. So let's quickly wrap this up. So first off, we need to do on this particular component, on the one holding our text, we could say on initial. Remember, we have the initial value. On initial, it has to be hidden. We don't want to see it on the first load. And animate is equal to visible. Then we have transition. We could have some transition here to have some cool transition. Set up the duration for like 0.6 or 0.5 for starting. Then we have a delay. You should have a delay of 1.5. Okay, let's format this and see what we currently have. I think we need to go back to the home page. That's what we're working on now. Okay, so we have this transition. Then we also need to set up a variance. So in Framer motion, we have variance. So it says variance is just an object we use to make reusable animations, for example. So instead of defining your visible or hidden inside a particular element directly, you could just create an object that holds that value, and you could reuse it across your application. So we need to create a variance, and let's quickly do that. Let's create a variant here, which is just going to be a variable. A constant variable, we could call it variance is equal to, remember, it has to be an object. Then initial is just going to be hidden. Hidden will just be, I think we could just try to work on the filter. And for now, we just say blur. So we want to have like a blur on the text for 10 px. Then opacity, remember, hidden is the first initial state. Opacity will be 0. Okay, hidden is not spelled correctly. Okay, so let's copy this because we use it here again. So now hidden and visible, this is going to be 0 pixel, then opacity of 1. So now let's use this variant directly inside our div here. So we'll say this variance is equal to our variance. So let's go back to our page and see what we have. Okay, now you can see what we currently have. Once you refresh the page or once you change the layout, the designer and developer takes some time before it comes up. Okay, now we need to apply same design to, or should I say same variant to these other components. Now mind you, we could also use like other style, but for the sake of this video, we're just going to reuse the variants across each other. Yeah, okay, or we could simply do something different with the paragraphs. So now let's try this again. Initial is just gonna be equal to opacity is equal to 0. Remember, then animate is basically gonna be equals to opacity of 1. Now we'd say transition is gonna be a duration of 0.5, delay of, we could say a delay of 2, just to give that smooth animation. Okay, now let's see what we currently have. And yep, we refresh the page, we have this. Wow. Okay, so this shows up 1, 2. Now let's apply this to the home text. What we just do, we just copy and paste what we already have here. Initial, animate, variant, and transition. Copy it and paste it in the home. That works for us. And let's refresh, and okay, that works. So we see the kind of animation we have now. Okay, yeah, but there. So let's take most of these animations we have here into the about page. Remember, we have 2 pages, so we will just reuse what we already have here. I think we could just export this so we could import it in the other component, in the other page. Now we are in this page, and okay, I think I could just take this out of here. We mostly have same contents. We're just gonna copy this and take it to the about page and do this and import what we need. What needs to be imported. Fix add on missing imports. Okay, now remember, this page has to be white, a background of white, and the text has to be of black. You can see the contents. Okay, let's refresh the page. So we have this, then go to the about page, go back to the home page, and this. Okay, yeah, so let's do one more fix. Let's do one more. So what we see here is body. We could add a background color of something like this hex, and go and try it again. Let's see what we currently have. So we go to the about page, we have the smooth animation, we have our content shown. Go to the about page and go here, refresh the page again. Yeah, I think this is this. One last touch we could do here for this header, we could add a little animation to the header. If we want to do that, we could just add a little animation to the header. That should be really straightforward. And just go to the header component, header. Okay, so we need to go back to our framer file. Let's export a component of header is equal to motion header. Okay, then go into header, use this and import it. Okay, good. So we have this, and we just take a regular animation, say something like what we already used before. Initial hidden, do this, then the variance is just going to be what we used before. The variance is just going to be our variance we already exported from the home page. Now let's go back and see final touch. Okay, now let's refresh this page and see what we have here. Okay, now you don't see it until the page loads. Good. Now about home. Yeah, so we've come to the end of this particular video. I hope you've been able to learn 1 or 2 things about Framer Motion and how you could use it to add nice animations to your applications, your React applications. If you have any question, thoughts, contribution, or doubts, you could just leave it in the comment section and I will attend to it as soon as possible. Thank you for watching, and give this video a like if you enjoyed this. Thank you.